Hi guys, it's Lori coming at you from Laura's World. I am super excited. I know I get excited every single time, and I just love talking to people in recovery. Honest to God, I do. But I'm talking to a gentleman this evening. He's one of the first people that I started to follow on Instagram because I just thought he was just so spiritual and I loved everything that he posted. His name is Bill Ward. He's from Alberta, Canada. He's got this wonderful website and God, just everything. He's a mentor. He considers himself a change maker. He just wants to help people. This is what I love so much about him. I cannot wait to talk to him tonight. So buckle up. This is going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you. Thank you so much to all of our followers and our subscribers. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, share. The more people we can reach out there that are in recovery or struggling in recovery, we're here to tell you that recovery is possible. We do recover, and it's not just one size fits all. As you will see when Bill gets on, he does it a little bit different too. So let's see what he has to say. Bill, how the heck are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Welcome to Laura's World. I see that you have, your website and you've got so much on it, and I'd like to share that with everybody. I'm going to put it in the description. I just admire you so much. And thank you for being here. I would love for you to tell everybody just a little bit about what happened and what got you into recovery and what you're doing now that I love so much.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. And, sometimes I think it's important for us to us as addicts, alcoholics, we don't always see the truth, right? And, you're telling me some things like, you followed me and, the spirituality and some of the messages really hit home. And sometimes we need that, right? Because I don't always see it. And I get caught in a little delusion that sometimes the stuff doesn't really matter and that nobody's really getting anything from it. But then, it's kind of like a meeting, you can share and share. And unless people come up to you, it's a validation. We have a bit of a validation illness, right?
Yeah,
and we do kind of need it, though, in a sense, because it inspires me that I inspire you. And then I want to do it more. I get a lot of messages and that's what keeps me going, man. I love it. Right. And I think maybe why they're so impactful, why my posts are impactful. I don't just put the meme on. I usually do a little bit of a write-up.
Yes.
And that write-up comes straight from my own experience, like always, right? Not only from living the program or learning how to live it and making many mistakes. And, luckily for me, I came in, I did the steps, I never drank or did drugs ever again. Mm-hmm. But I sure learned that the program or my sobriety was not based on that I was just an alcoholic because I drank alcohol or as a drug addict because I did drugs. I have a spiritual malady inside of me that will manifest itself into the relief of drugs and alcohol. And when I first started recovery, I thought that I just had a drug and alcohol problem. But then as time went on, like a year and a half in, I'm like, holy I got a selfish self-centeredness problem. I got a defective character problem. I got much more problems than the drugs and the alcohol because I was started running into problems in life again, right? But I knew that the solution was somewhere within the literature I was studying, and I started to find it, and I started to study it. Why? Because I didn't want to hurt people anymore, and it was like I was still hurting people, and I didn't want to, right? And hurting myself, and I just was still restless, irritable, discontented. But I knew there was more. I'm a slow learner, Laura, and sometimes we gotta hit the wall over and over and over, right? I'm sure you can relate to that. How we can't see the truth when we're I always like to say, you can't see self from self. You will never see the problem while you're in the problem. And for me, I'm a huge proponent of the steps. And unless you do the steps and then try to practice this to the best of your ability, you will never be able to step outside of self and see what the problem is. So at about 18 months sober and clean, that's all I was treating my spiritual malady or my alcoholism addiction with drugs and alcohol. That quit working. And then I come in, I sober up, and I start treating my alcoholism, untreated alcoholism or addiction or spiritual malady with defects of character. And the thing is if I treat my alcoholism, crazy thinking with defects of character too long, I will pick up a drink again, right? So I started learning about this selfish self-centeredness thing. I started really studying the literature. If you think this book is some guy's opinion or a theory, I feel sorry for you, because once I start taking this literature as like, this is the direction of my life, things get so much better. And I'm absolutely convinced that when I make decisions based on self, my life is shitty. So I really have learned through the literature and through the directions of our literature, how to turn my will and my life over, and not theoretically, because so I've sponsored probably over 300 people one-on-one. I've helped like thousands of people. I do big book workshops. I do step 6 and 7 workshops. I do step 3 workshops. I live this program today. And I've come to realize that through the sponsorship, I've seen so many people take God as a theory, just as an idea. And there's a line in our literature, it's in the step 12, working with others. It says, faith alone is insufficient. To be vital, it must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. Through the self-sacrifice is actually where I get closer to God. Mm-hmm. Through the awareness and seeing myself, decisions based in self, or possibly gonna be a decision based in self if I'm not careful, I can bring creator in. I can talk to another God-centered 12-step member, get their opinion, and then in that moment I can sacrifice my selfishness. That's what self-sacrifice means. And then through the relinquishment of self, I'm able to be unselfish constructive action. Now I can be of service to people. And the more that I self-sacrifice through the exact directions of our literature, the happier I get. And another line is, common sense thus becomes uncommon sense. The way that I used to live my life and run, it's actually the opposite. Like my whole life was based on the foundation of self. But where did I learn that? I learned it from our society. And then I manifest that as an alcoholic addict into very destructive behaviors, hurting people, drinking, shame, guilt. But now I try to build it on that firm bedrock of God, right? And in our literature, it talks about the cornerstone. Upon the simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. But the spiritual structure can't be built unless I actually learn how to turn it over. And I see people drink.
What do you say to people? Because this is, for me, the biggest problem that people have is God. And when you're sponsoring someone that has a really hard time with that, how do you explain that to them?
Honestly, Laura, I take them through We Agnostic step 2.
Okay.
Never, ever have I had a person combat God after I've taken them through We Agnostics. And I'll even say this in meetings. If you're atheist or agnostic and you've been through the chapter We Agnostics and you're still an atheist or agnostic, that's your pride and your ego trying to hold on to a false identity because you want to be different and separate yourself. And that's my firm belief. And I've never had anybody stay atheist or agnostics after going through that chapter. We Agnostics. This is one of the biggest things that I like to talk about in the program is, so many people will do the steps, and the 12 steps will give you a lot. Mm-hmm. But the one component of the 12 step, working with others, it actually gives you everything. Because most people are so selfish and self-centered, most people will never find that gift. And when you look at the actual literature, in the doctor's opinion, the doctor writes, or Bill W. writes, our solution is found on the spiritual and altruistic plane. And when you look up the word altruistic, it means unselfishly devoting oneself to the welfare, happiness, and well-being of other people. That's kind of where we're trying to get to. Mm-hmm. Because really the fourth dimension, I think, exists in pure altruism. in selflessness. And through you looking at yourself, talking to yourself, listening to yourself as talking to your sponsee, you start learning so much about yourself through looking at somebody else and getting to know them, and connecting to their heart blows your heart wide open. And it does things inside of us that the logical mind can never understand.
How long have you been sober for, Bill?
I'll have 7 years this upcoming March 22nd of 2022, I guess it will be.
Very nice. That's awesome. And what was there a turning point? Was there something that happened, or did you just say, you know what, I think I've had enough? Or was there a turning point for you that got you into the rooms?
I actually quit drinking when I was 22, after treatment, after jail, total powerlessness of my substance as a youngster. And then I turned my alcoholism with substance into alcoholism or illness with making money and status and the manifestation of self, right? So I built a company in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I was making like $3 million a year. I had a big house. I had everything. I was the egocentric alcoholic, and all my disease was from substance to material. And then, as we know, the substance wears off. It doesn't work anymore. Same with material. And then the material didn't work. And then through circumstances of looking for my brother, I ended up having to smoke crack to get in a crack house in Winnipeg, Manitoba. But I didn't understand the illness at all. I was just dry for the most part, building a company, but I wasn't into my company anymore. This is like 13, 14 years into building my company. I have 3 daughters by this time. I have my common law spouse, Shannon, and but I'm not real happy. I'm untreated alcoholic addict, so I'm pretty miserable. But I go look for my brother in Winnipeg, and I had to go into this crack house, and to prove that I wasn't a cop or a narc, they made me take some hits of crack. And then I come back to Calgary to run my business and get back into my life. And I didn't realize I had set off the phenomenon of craving and the obsession by having this substance that I had never really found attractive in my life before. But then I found myself not stopping being able to think about it in Calgary. And then I found it. And then within 5 years, I became a full-on crack addict, and I lost my house. I lost my business. I lost my family. I ended up being homeless, and my family was homeless, and I had nothing left.
Wow.
So really, I didn't really have a choice. So my dad had been in one of the programs for 30 years. And I went and asked him, I said, hey, can you take me to a meeting? So he took me to my first meeting, and I'm like 36 or 37 years old at this time. And he said, son, I've been waiting 30 years for you to ask me that question. And so I go to this meeting, and like the desperation of a drowning man, I did what I was told. I didn't have any options, Laura. If I had another $20 or $100 in my pocket that day, if I had another full tank of gas or, another extra hoot or two in the baggie, I might not have done any of this, but I happened to do it that day, and I never looked back.
You're a mentor. You're always posting meetings that are going on, inviting people to meetings. You're a speaker as well, are you not?
Well, I'm a speaker in my neck of the woods, and then
Okay.
I speak a lot on Zoom at speaker meetings. I do, like I said, workshops. So I get in front of groups and I speak on the steps, and I do things like that.
Wonderful.
I would like to speak with my First Nations brothers and sisters and try to really help them up here, because our First Nations people are in bad shape with suicides and addictions and things like that. So I'm trying to move in that direction a little bit also.
That's wonderful. What would you tell somebody right now if they were struggling? What would be the first thing that you would what you would say to somebody if somebody called you or messaged you and said, Bill, I see your Instagram page and I'm, sober curious. What should I do? What would you tell that person that came to you?
If they're the real deal alcoholic, and I prefer to talk to the real hopeless variety alcoholic addict. If it's them, then I try to really expand on the allergy, the obsession, but tying it back to the malady. I think the malady is the most important. And I would say, you know what? Come to some meetings, come to the big book study, get a sponsor. Like, what do you got to lose to spend a month to go through a step 1 with a sponsor? And if a step 1 with a sponsor hits you right between the eyes, you probably need the rest of the 11 steps. And what do you got to lose? Like you said, when you come in here and you have no more answers, that's when you're willing. The thing is, lots of people still have answers, and and they end up going off the other way. But honestly, Laura, we hear a lot, the most important person in the room is the new person. I'm not the biggest fan of that statement. I think the most important person in the room is the person who just finished a set of steps or who has 1 year sober, but they do not understand the illness of addiction or alcoholism. And it's based in the spiritual malady. And those are the people that I focus on because I want them to stay. I want the person with 1 year to get 5 years. I want the person who's struggling with their defects of character who will not look at them because the rooms that they are going to will not talk about self-centeredness, defects of character. All they talk about is substance. I want them to know the truth about the illness. And I'd like to also add this in the big book. It says 50% got sober at once, 25% with some relapses. So like I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, and I'm not saying this to like put me on a pedestal or my ego. It's just something that's important, I think. I sponsor and 5 or 7 out of 10 people are staying sober because I focus on the spiritual malady just like the book does. And if I get 10 people that ask me to take them through the steps, I'm getting 9 of them through the 12 steps because they hear me in the meetings, they see me around, and I'm weeding out the people who aren't willing, and I'm weeding out the real non-alcoholics. And over time, the people that come and ask me for help, they're serious. And then as I take people through the steps, I get like almost all of them through the steps because I focus on the spiritual malady, never the substance. The substance can be porn, anger, greed, judgment. It doesn't really matter. Whatever the spiritual malady is for whoever, it's always in the behavior. It's never really the substance. And I think because I focus on that, my success rates as a sponsor working with my creator are really high. And my ability to get people through all 12 steps is exceptionally rare to have 9 or 10 out of 10 to go through all 12 steps.
Well, there's that thing that, there are so many people who need it, but only a few that really want it. And you have to really want it. How has your recovery changed? Has it changed at all? Or you got into the AA, doing the 12 steps, and that works for you and that's what you like to do? Have you changed anything in your recovery over the last 7 years?
I think my recovery progressively changes as I go nonstop all the time.
Yeah.
My understanding of the literature changes because me as a person changes, so that the depth of the literature is deeper.
It's deeper, a different meaning for you.
Yeah. When I first came in, it was about a substance. Step 3 decision when I first came in meant what it meant.
Yep.
Today it means I actually try to rigorously turn my life over and really not run my life.
Yeah.
Back when I was new, being altruistic meant trying to help somebody, even though maybe sometimes I didn't want to. And today it means altruism means, I want to help you. I want you to shine. I want you to be the best version of you that you can, right? I think what this program's allowed me to do is become authentic with who I am. And I don't need to set boundaries in my life out of all these broken parts of me and insecurities. I've been able to heal a lot through the relinquishment and turning it over to my creator. And then my only boundary setter becomes my truth, my heart, and based in love and based in God. So and it just keeps changing. It keeps getting different and better and more pain. But I'm not fearful of the pain anymore.
Isn't that funny? Me either. I'm such a creature of habit and I like things a certain way. And when change comes, I would get very, oh God. Now what? And now it's just, I've just let it come. And that saying, everything happens for a reason. I hated that. But it truly is. Everything just brings you from one point to another. And I just smile now and I look up and I'm like, okay, no, that was you. Because it's not me anymore. It's not me anymore.
And like in the step 7 and the 12 and 12, there's a paragraph and I love the literature, right? It says in AA, we looked, we listened. So I've looked, I've listened, I've sat, I've watched. Everywhere we saw pain and misery transformed by humility into priceless assets. So I look around and I see the pain and misery transformed by, you know, humiliation and pain into priceless assets, essentially character building, you know. But this admission price purchased more than we expected. It brought a measure of humility that we soon discovered to be the healer of pain. We desired real humility more than ever. And that's my total experience through the humiliation and pain of learning, but not stopping and still going towards Creator. I've learned. And it's changed me fundamentally, and I fear pain less, and I desire real humility more than ever, right? And I'd like to just share this too. My daughters at the time were 17. I have 3 daughters. My 2 youngest daughters, 17 and 19, they asked me if they could do the 12 steps, and they weren't alcoholic or addict.
Okay.
But they knew, because I promote that this is a design for living and it's not about the substance so much. And they took me for lunch one day and they said, can we work the 12 steps? We don't want to be angry or miserable. We want what you got, Dad, because they saw who I was years ago and they see who I am today, and they wanted that. So they did the 12 steps. And it's changed their life. My ex-wife, who suffered from depression, anxiety, because I ruined our lives. And so the last 7 years, she's been, you know, trying to be challenged by life, trying to raise my daughters because they stayed with her. But anyway, she hit a bottom and she's like, I want to work the 12 steps. I'm going to try it, because I kept telling her, you suffer a spiritual malady. It's not mental illness. It's not a mental illness. So she worked the 12 steps. My ex-wife is a totally different person today because of the 12 steps. And like, honestly, Laura, probably I usually work with like 8 to 10 people at a time, always as a sponsor. Right now I'm working with like 3 at a time are always non-alcoholics. So I'm taking non-alcoholics through the steps constantly, because Bill W. said, we are sure our program has its benefits for all. And I see a much more important demonstrations of these principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and all of our affairs. I'm attracting people to the program, to what I got, based on what this program and Creator has done for me. And then I've been able to articulate the step 1 is the most important part with working with others that aren't alcoholics or addicts, into a way where they understand, and they're changing everybody's life. And like, our city is like the big book capital of Canada. It's unbelievable. So anyway, I wanted to share that because
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It's a control thing. It's a power. It's, you know, we don't want anybody to see that we're what we think is weak. We don't want anybody to see that we can't control this, that, or the other. And that's what it comes down to for me. Because even when I put down the drugs and alcohol for 1.5 years, I was still miserable. Like, what the hell? Why am I still miserable? I didn't want to do anything else. I thought that's all I had to do was not drink, but I did not share with anybody. I did not let anybody know what was going on with me. I'm fine. I was still dying inside. And I'm like, why am I doing this? It really, truly was getting a sponsor and working those steps. And I was like, oh my God. All right. Okay. Because I traded the alcohol for, now I'm shopping like crazy. And I'm, now I'm, buying, I had every single flavored vodka in my bar, in my house. And now I switched it up for every single flavored tea there was. Like, I'm obsessed about finding every single tea. You've just switched one for another. AA and the 12 steps saved my life, though. Saved my life.
Mine too. And you're 100% right. It is a control thing.
Yeah.
And it's not about the substance, really. I'm powerless over life.
Over life. Yeah.
And it
was Lori's way or no way. And when Lori did not get her way, oh my God. Watch out, everybody. This is just such a much easier, softer way to live. I am so happy that I found recovery. I am so happy that I met you. And I really, really want to thank you for doing this with me. And I want to stay in touch, my friend. I want to stay
Yeah.
in touch.
Yeah, like this is such an amazing community, Laura, and I'm so happy you asked me to come on. And I'm lining up a whole bunch of my own interviews for my podcast again, and I hope you would come on to mine.
Oh my God, I would love to. It'd be an honor. I thank you for doing this with me, and it would be my pleasure to do one with you. You ask anytime. I'll send you my cell phone number. You can give me a call and we'll set something up. That would be awesome. It's been a pleasure, Bill. An
Yeah.
absolute pleasure. Please stay in touch with me.
I will, and thank you so much for everything you do too. Like I'm enthralled with your posts, what you do, how active you are, and you're a change maker, right? And we need you out there, Lauren. I'm really, really happy to know you, and I hope we can get to know each other better over time here.
I hope so too. It would be wonderful. I just adore you, Bill. Thank you so much for doing this with me. We'll be in touch.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. You have a
Thank you,
great
Laura.
evening.
You too, my dear.
Okay. Thanks.